You rolling? Yo, Shame Dog. I'm gonna talk to you about some shit that's really important. Alright? Because politics is interested in you, whether you're interested in it or not. So, my hometown, La Mesa, is a suburb of San Diego. Last night, the downtown area was decimated in one of the most incredible scenes of destruction in, I think, the whole country. There's a few cities that had major protests, right? I live in Las Vegas now. A lady friend of mine went to the one that was on the Strip. But La Mesa completely popped off in a way that I don't think anyone was expecting. Now, I wasn't expecting it, but I can't say I was completely surprised. San Diego isn't known for racial tensions, but I could have told you they were there. And the animosity has been suppressed by law enforcement, obviously. The working class is under intense pressure, like everywhere in the country. La Mesa is fairly close to City Heights and other central neighborhoods, and they're suffering severely from urban flight gentrification. From what I understand, demonstrators came from around the city, and the La Mesa Police Department responded initially with tear gas, rubber bullets, but by later in the evening, they were overwhelmed, right? Both banks, there's a Union Bank and a Bank of America downtown, they're torched. The shopping center is ransacked, and it just looked like a war zone, the whole central area that surrounds the trolley station. So why am I not shocked that this happened? Okay, so I'm intimately acquainted with this shit. I was middle class in that area at one point, from a good family, I had a good dad. And I was also homeless, living in those same neighborhoods for about 3 years. I was working full time. It's not like I'm a fucking dildo, right? And I was eventually able to improve my situation, but it was by slowly understanding the fucked up world around me, developing a strong working class identity, a vision of better possibilities, shit like that. So obviously I know housing prices are absurd. People who fall off are cast aside. People are barely clinging to shelter, stability. And I'm white. Like, mix systemic racism in with that, you're fucked. Like, forget about it. So, I mean, conditions are impossible. So what do I have to say about it? I can say, obviously, I don't want my town to be torched. I want La Mesa to be a good place to be. That's one of the greatest towns in the country, and I've lived in a few different places. It's a great place to live. But people have not been getting along there for a long time. The police obviously aren't helping. It's one facet of a multifaceted situation. And it hasn't been in people's faces, but now it is. And I don't want any of this shit to happen, but we got to this point. There's a way to solve it. So number one is police reform. Reducing the strength of the prison industrial complex, stopping mass incarceration, right? Ending the drug war, which we know is stupid. Right. And look at places that have actually had success with drug policy. Like Portugal, the Netherlands, whatever. But I can prove this shit empirically. And number two, economic justice. And a living wage. Public health care. I mean, it's a little more complicated than that, but these are known things. It's social science. And this is what I want people to realize, right? It's not about identity politics. This is an issue of systemic racism. Yeah, that kid, George Floyd, died because he wasn't a kid, he was a grown man. He was an older gentleman. He died because he was black, right? But I don't think about it like this happened because people are racist, right? Because that's, and again, like I might divert from some other liberals on this, but I don't have any interest in changing how people feel about shit or policing culture, right? Like, there's always going to be racist people. I'm way past trying to get people to love everyone. But here's the reality, right? And everyone sees this, which is that we are one of the wealthiest nations in the history of the world. And our leaders are guilty of unspeakable hypocrisy. There's moral bankruptcy, right? They take our tax dollars They use it on sending our boys from our neighborhoods to die in fool's errands in the Middle East, corporate-sponsored shenanigans. They lie about drugs and use law enforcement as a means of social control. They conduct domestic spying and psyops and cover up corruption. The developed nations that don't have civil unrest are ones that use their tax dollars and invest in their population, right? Like public health care, guaranteeing good jobs, living wages, housing, like investing in science. Like, if your government has massive revenue, what do you do? What's the government for, right? We don't seem to just be that into investing in anything that doesn't involve violence directly. So it's really not rocket surgery, right? You want shitty things to stop happening, you have to stop having shitty social policy. The Republican Party and the Democratic Party, I barely make a distinction. They're both stupid right-wing parties that represent the corporate state. They do not care about anything but enslaving people, basically. Dominance. Forget about all that shit. Stop watching cable news. The reason government gets a bad rap is our government has been hijacked by criminals, right? We see this in various ways, like at all different levels. There's no easy way. There's no one step. Neither political party has a solution for you. Not the two that have been in power. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this place, right? We have to organize politically. White working class people and black working class people everywhere have essentially the same interests, right? And we're even at a place where, broadly speaking, at a national level, like rural populations and urban populations are facing the same kind of existential threats, threats to stability and employment, stuff like that. So this means solidarity, right? Like, to get good things to happen, you have to force your leaders to act. This means labor unions, political parties, places where stuff related to electoral politics is actually happening. And that's where you need to go and talk to people and find out what the fuck is going on in your hood. We are going to have to build a coalition that speaks to the interests of everyone who isn't a gazillionaire, because that's everyone who's been left out of the process. That means everyone who wants to live in a society that makes sense has to show their voice in ways that they haven't been, right? And not by identifying with existing power structures. They're not here to serve it, right? Or haven't been. So if that's you, if that's what you want, to live in a society that makes sense, we need to end neoliberalism. That means taking control of a government that has been usurped by a hostile force, which is all of these neoliberals and conservatives, right? And they're criminals and charlatans. They're not public servants. They're frauds. They get where they are by trading favors for money. We need to end corruption by having public elections. And it's not easy, but other places have had success with this. What do you think is going to prevent unrest? What do you suggest? I'm talking, I guess, to the right wing. More militarism, more police industrial complex, more mass incarceration, more pollution, more disease. Give me a fucking break. Like, we've been trying the same things that don't work over and over again. You go to the Netherlands, Costa Rica, all these other places to figure that shit out. It's time for us to get fucking real. And that means admitting where we're at and what we've allowed to happen. So, I'm so past caring about a bank that got lit on fire. I mean, when these things happen, there's going to be... This is what leads to unrest, right? Disparity, people who aren't able to participate in the economy meaningfully. you might not approve of some of the ways people are lashing out, but you know what causes people to lash out. There's a simple way to, again, it's not simple, but from a political perspective, it's simple what the working class, or what these people who have been victimized, need to happen for them. And everyone has the potential to realize that. So if you care about this, if you care about preventing unrest, preventing political violence from happening in the United States, if you don't want to see this, like I don't, it's time to get serious. We're all on the same team. Let's do this. Right? We have to do better. Voters, cops, protesters, public officials. That's all it is. And we have to be in solidarity and do better for each other. Fuck fascism. And that's it. Shame dog out.